in '85, Air Jordan 1s were not popular in New York. We hated
Interesting.
those shoes.
Interesting.
This was
Wow.
a New York Nicktown in '85. This was all
Yeah,
about Patrick Ewing and those guys.
absolutely.
You was in that vault.
Oh, there's Ewing's here.
Oh my God. It's Ewins here.
I have a pair of Ewing's here signed by Red Alert from '86, '87.
You got the Adidas ones or the Patrick Ewings.
Both.
Oh my God. I'm done. This
Both.
dude, God, is crazy.
Both are here. There's an archive of stuff here that I love to show and like remind people of, just like what we're talking about. Like Ewing Athletics came back. A friend of mine named David Goldberg owns the brand now, and he's put it out. For the last 10 plus years, he's been still cranking out the classic models.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he was one of the original Ewing collectors that kept the archive of the original stuff. So all of the stuff that he puts out is based on the last and the quality of the originals. So he's somebody who had appreciation for the brand, and when he had the opportunity to bring it back, he did that and works with Patrick Ewing on it and everything. So
Wow.
that doesn't always, still to this day. So that doesn't happen in a lot of spaces because, sure, Michael Jordan is the face of his own brand, but it's a subsidiary of Nike. So in the end, Nike is making most of the decisions regarding all of this product. So this NBA All-Star weekend just passed, and they put back out for the 40th anniversary the black and red Jordan 1s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they put the band 1s back out. We got to get the band. They done put that shoe out 7 times at least since '85. 7 times. And every time there's a group of people who, I gotta have it. I gotta get that shoe. Oh, I need another pair.
Yeah.
Thinking that that's really the band shoe when it's not. That's not even the real band shoe. So, they do a great job of making a consumer younger than us believe that at that point when they pick those shoes up, that that's the beginning of the story. And we do our work to constantly dispel those myths all the time.
Well,
And let people know that the industry is older than it is.
Yeah.
The stories go back further. And you can't forget the people who are most important to the origin stories of that, much like, you were saying when it came to hip hop, Will. Like, I make sure that people never forget, and we make sure that people don't gentrify the story.
Okay. Sean, let me ask you this. Let me see if you can do this for us. You said you guys in New York was able to tell a guy where he's from just by where he's wearing. So give me the barrels of what they would be wearing as you was coming up.
That's a tough one. And the reason why that's not as easy is because you got 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. So it's a little hard for me on the spot to decipher that based on those decades and those eras.
Right.
But the fact that you asked me that, it proves to the listeners and people are going to hear this that, yeah, that was a real thing, as opposed to the homogenous nature now of everybody where you don't know where they're fucking from. You know what I have to do? Shout out to Jamel Shabazz, he's the Gordon Parks of our time in terms of photography. Jamel Shabazz did a great job of documenting our experiences visually in all of the 5 boroughs and beyond.
Wow.
Where his work is really one of those bodies of work that crystallized those moments and those eras in time through his photography, where you look back and go, I had those. I remember those.
Wow.
I've curated exhibitions where people have looked at items of sneakers that we put in exhibitions, and they literally said to me, I had one guy say to me, those shoes you got right there in that exhibition, I was wearing that exact same model when I got shot in the park.
Damn. Wow. They put a story to that sneaker.
He saw the shoe in an exhibition we did, and he was standing there, and he literally had a tear come down his eye. And I was like, yo, is everything all right, man? He's like, those are the shoes I was wearing when I got shot in such and such park. But that's why we do exhibitions also. We do sneaker exhibitions to spark those conversations and crystallize those timelines of experience also for folks. Our sneaker exhibitions over the last 10 to 12 years have been seen by over 14 million people worldwide.
That is insane.
And
in an exhibition, sneakers would you have out on display?
So we've done them in partnership with colleges and universities, museums like the Brooklyn Museum, Port Authority Bus Terminal. I did 2 exhibitions at Port Authority Bus Terminal, which were the 2, like numbers wise, the biggest we've ever done. Those 2 combined are about 12 million people have seen those. Yeah, I have an exhibition in residence right now at St. John's University called We Are Shoe York. I had one at Drexel University during my residency there. We've done and curated exhibitions in partnership with folks where we tell these unique stories that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Wow.
And speaking of the stories, that's one of the things, man. I've been waiting to ask you this question because I wanted to see if this question was even appropriate to ask. We have seen a lot of Black designers. I'm
Uh-huh.
sure there's been, folks behind the scene that were African American and doing all those things.
Mhm.
What happened? Like when I think about FUBU, when I think about, Pele Pale and all these other, what happened? Because these were brands. Like I remember, man, particularly in the 90s when I was in college,
Uh-huh.
it was like every kind of, you would go to the mall and you couldn't help
Uh-huh.
it but see FUBU. You couldn't help it but see,
Mark Buchanan, all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was there. And they were selling shoes. They were selling jackets. They were selling, the pants. The culture was being, like to say, for us, by us. What happened?
Well, here's the challenge question to that. By the time it reached the malls and spread across America,
Mhm.
with other people having access to these same clothes
Mm.
in malls, in places where we aren't populous, I mean, ultimately, what do you think happens, right? And there's still a lot of brands around now. April Walker of Walkerwear is a good friend of mine who her brand is still here 30 plus years later. She came back, some time ago, still doing her thing. Um, the rise of all those brands reaching major retail and being distributed at the Macy's and everything else was coming at a time when I respectfully say the goal was not to give us more access, but to give other people more access to those brands, right?
Yep. Watered it down.
And what happens, right, is you start putting FUBU and stuff like that in malls in middle of America, where
Yep.
there's a smattering of black folks, but we ain't really the majority in no way, shape, or form. And you start seeing who's wearing it.
Yep.
And a lot of people they want to look like black people without the responsibility of being black. So clothing is the easiest way to do that.
Mm.
Clothing and footwear is the easiest way for people to get away with living our experience without the pressures of it.
Mm.
That
Yep.
wears thin, but then at the same time, those brands, once they grew so big and they've been distributed in all these spaces, and then these brands don't sell anymore, the crash is painful.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
it is, man. Like
It's a
when
very
Karl
painful
Kani
crash.
went out of business, man, I was hurt. I mean, I'm just speaking for me personally. I was hurt. I was like,
Mhm.
man, that was because when you're coming up, we were looking up to that. Like when that when hip hop to me really kind of exploded in the '90s with this hip hop R&B kind of collaboration, where it
Mhm.
really kind of exploded. Because you got to remember, man, we grew up in a time where it was normal for you, but it wasn't normal for us. Like I remember even
Right.
traveling as a basketball team when we would come to New York. Man, we was exposed to so much hip hop culture that it's like,
Right. And when you got here, you felt like home. It was easy for you to
absolutely.
identify and be comfortable,
Yep.
as opposed to when you went back home, where you know all the amenities that made you feel like home weren't there. And those of you who were visionary enough to just start doing it for yourselves out there and being individuals who didn't look and move like anybody else, other people start following y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, man,
That's what happened.
tell us about the school, man.